flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to just take a 30-second moment of silence for Pope Francis. Thank you. Item number 2, 46 Old Page Street, J.F. White Office Building, modification request, SP 23-001. I know they requested it. Bill?
Doesn't look like it's going through.
Can you hear us on the TV? No?
No one. Okay. It's on the main, so see if they can hear us.
Can anybody who's online hear us? Michael Delphis, can you hear us? Okay, thank you.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So 56 Old Page Street, I know there was a letter for a modification request. They wanted to do it administratively. I looked it over. I'm not sure, where you stand on that? Is that the one? Oh, I'm sorry, there was a different, my fault. So,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman. 56 Old Page Street. They've made some curbing modifications and some other stuff during their
right, which
construction.
they wanted to do on a,
Huh?
they wanted to do administratively.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and we didn't kind of have an issue with that. It's still under construction, it hasn't gotten its CO. We usually have just brought them in front of the board. So,
Are they here?
is anyone here for that? Okay.
The modifications, I understand are fairly minor. I've gone through them. I don't see any major. You want to just go through them publicly so we have it? Thank you.
Bring the microphone and turn it on.
All right, you hear me okay? So, yeah, we have 3 modification requests.
Identify yourself for the.
Oh, apologies. Steve Foley with Essex Builders. We're the general contractor for 56 Old Page Street. So on our final review, we had 3 items identified that we're requesting a modification. The Cape Cod berm in lieu of concrete curbing. Early in pre-con, this was discussed with ownership, with JF White. They're always running a lot of heavy equipment around their yard, some tight turning radiuses. And the thought was there's less likely to blow out tires on Cape Cod berm instead of precast. The second item is propane tanks and backup generator. The original plan had the transformer in the location of the new backup generator. We are currently on, and will be on, a grinder pump system to a force main. This project ties into the Stoughton Logistics Park. So we currently have a temporary sanitary system, but when it goes final, when the Stoughton Logistics Park force main goes online, backup power will be required to activate the grinder pump, as well as it services JF White's fleet and communications, so they run a 24/7 operation. So that was a request from ownership. And then basement access stairs, this was clearly a miss in the design. We had a basement, there was no egress stairs from down there. I did reach out to the building department during construction and brought it up, and was instructed to make sure it's captured on our certified as-built with our foundation permit. So they were aware of it before a building permit was issued. So the big goal here is all of our other sign-offs are completed. We're trying to get JF White into their new office as the road work for The logistics park is getting closer to their existing office, which was the reason for this development, is the
Where is-
new roadway is.
Where's the new transformer going? If it's not going that same location?
So we were able to work out with Eversource that we were able to use the existing gear on the JF White property rather than bringing in a separate service. So there was an old marine building, or an old electric service with underground conduit and with adequate size that we reviewed with the engineers, and we were okay. So it was a benefit to JF White to not have to have a separate service for their office and then the rest of their buildings.
Mr. Chairman, on the screen is a photo of the propane that has the protection bollards. And then I can show you I believe the generator is right there, also with the bollards, and you can see the curbing. And right in here is the stairwell that goes down.
Anybody else have any questions?
So it looks like it was already switched to a berm, a Cape Cod berm. This is an after effect,
Yeah, when we went out and inspected, we were like, that's not what was on the plans. You need to come to the board.
Yeah. Apologies it didn't get to you guys. It was a pre-construction decision. Should have came back to you sooner. The curbing along the sidewalks is still concrete, and nothing along the right-of-way has been changed. That'll all still be performed by IBG, but I believe they have granite out there.
That should be granite coming in off the road.
Yes, yep. So it's just the landscape beds around the building.
Go ahead.
Bill, can you go back to the picture where the propane tanks can be situated? All right, it looked like you only have ballards on one side of those tanks.
They are on both sides in the picture.
Should almost be on
We can't see it. On all four.
all
I
four
see what you're
sides.
saying. We're happy to add additional bollards there. We
This
did
is just an
have-
interim construction photo that we have.
Okay,
I don't have the final photo.
all right.
We have had the propane and the, gas service to the generator inspected by the fire department and the plumbing inspector.
Okay. What happens is you're cutting back on the curbing, so to speak, because of the trucks and everything else, but here you were sitting on a couple of propane tanks. Those should be heavily safeguarded. That was be my own. But you're saying this is pre-construction, Bill, right? Bob?
I believe
Construction?
on the tanks, I believe we do have 3 on both sides.
There are 3 on both sides. He was saying there probably should be one where the
on
orange
each
cone
end.
is.
Yeah, like on all 4 sides, because when I'm looking at this drawing here, you have actually 3 access points to those tanks that somebody could back into it.
So you wouldn't mind adding one bollard in that area, would you?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, all in favor of leaving this as a minor modification?
so made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Item number 3, 1409 West Street, Donna Rab, scenic road permit modification request.
You need to
Turn on
turn
your
it
mic.
on, bring it close to you, identify who you are first for the record.
Sorry, Donna Rab, 1409 West Street. Stephen Rab.
Did you have anyone online that was here, or is it just you two?
William Roth was the person that I spoke with regarding this, so I don't know if he's here, is he supposed to be here? I don't know. But oh, all right, hi. So my builder sent you the forms? Correct. Okay, so you have everything. All right.
We're here by ourselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
That's
have
a-
ourselves kind of
Yeah.
going blind, in blind, yeah, blind.
Yeah, the applicant, it's a scenic road permit. They, you got your packet. They've, have a landscape architect or designer that's designed the plan. One of the issues is that the septic system is so close to there's very little room between the wall and the septic system. Rather ironic, we have the same issue on a scenic road permit right next door. However, they have a lot of right-of-way on the other side of the wall. They do not. So I've reviewed the plan. I think it'll probably be one of the more attractive fronts along this scenic road. And so they have looked at maples or not maples, but magnolias away, which are larger trees. Then they've gone to some shrubs, some cedars, and some arborvitae that would be along the front behind the wall.
So the deciduous trees and the other larger trees that we had out there are now gone.
Yeah.
And these were the ones that were taken out originally before anybody had known about it?
I think that was our friend, Mr., we just had him on the.
Eddie Vozella.
Mr. Vazella, he did the cutting of the Bay Road. We just had him in front of us. Seems like he likes to go on scenic roads and buy properties and just cut.
Cut.
Yeah. And then he sells the property, and then these folks inherit the problems.
Okay. Did the wall in this area get fixed? Because that was one of the other items that was going on.
Did the what get fixed?
The wall.
The stone wall?
You need to either sit, you got to turn your thing on and pull it towards
Chair.
you.
There's not a signature.
There was a stone wall issue. I don't know whether it was your lot or it was one of the adjacent lots. There was no stone wall issue on this?
Not with
No, there was no stone wall on this one.
On this one? Okay. So the existing stone wall was what was there and that's
It's
left.
there, still there. Get a chair. You're
Thank
not
you.
in jail.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Only comment that I have is the trees that are going there. Paul's not here, he's our tree guy, but the power lines, communication lines, the trees.
That was part of the reason,
Yeah,
and
that's
their
another-
explanation as to why they're
Yeah.
changing the trees, because their power lines are
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, we want shorter ones
It's in their
for
letter
that
that
reason.
this said.
And the larger maples are up here in the far corner, pulled back. So that they've got a combination of overhead power and the septic system, getting right up to the edge of this planter.
Okay.
And we don't have to do the maples, what the big ones, we can bring those down.
They're outside of the tree, they're outside of the area.
They're all
They
right.
would be attractive and nice.
Okay.
I would recommend them.
Okay.
Richard? You good for that?
No, I'm all set.
So do we want to just take this as a minor modification at this point?
Minor modification, if you want to vote to approve it, then
Yes, please.
I'll just
Have a
put it
motion
into
to
the
approve
record.
this minor modification to the plan.
So made.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, continued public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant and the owner of VFW Brucewood LLC, 30 Ellis Road, Newton, represented by attorney Barry Crimmins, 909 Washington Street, Stoughton, Mass., for the case file SPP 24-003, special permit per section 7.1 of the flexible residential development. The proposal is to create 20 single-family dwelling unit residential development on approximately 28-acre parcel with related infrastructure. The property is located at 0 Eagle Rock Road, located 1 Eagle Rock Road, assessors map 8, lot 17, in residential ARA zoning district, continued from 10/10/24 and 2/2/25. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Barry R. Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton. Here with me at the table tonight is the property owner, Mr. Dimitri Baskin, and alongside Dimitri is our project engineer, who you're all familiar with, Mr. Eric Diaz from Strong Point Engineering. We also have a couple members of our project team who have logged on remotely. Mr. Michael Delafave is with our architect, Rhodey Architects. We also have our landscape architect, Anton Almeida, who's also online. I think that's 50 people online, correct? Couple quick comments, if I may, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk a little bit about the concept of passive homes. A couple of things on the agenda that the chairman just read that I just sort of want to highlight. One is the fact that we originally had filed a traditional definitive subdivision, an 18-lot subdivision plan, if you recall, and had a hearing on that subdivision plan with you back in October. Since that time, we've had various meetings internally with town staff, et cetera, and it was determined that pursuing this development under the flexible development bylaw would be a preferable way to go, both for us and I think, not to speak for them, but for the town as well. I believe it may be the first development that's come before you under the flexible development. You know, we used to have the cluster bylaw, but when the zoning bylaw was amended, it was replaced with the flexible development. Although the basic concept of the layout is more or less the same in terms of the roadway coming in and the general configuration of the lots, there have been other changes to the development that Eric can speak to. And so I just want to point that out to you. So this is really our first time before you under the flexible development, which under the bylaw requires a special permit from you folks. So it's a little bit of a twist from your traditional application for a definitive subdivision. The other part, again, as I touched on, it says on the agenda, we were originally here on October 10th and then on 2/27. We actually, the 2/27 hearing date, we did not present testimony. That hearing actually got continued to tonight. So as I said, other than the original hearing on October 10th, we got continued since then to tonight. And so we're pleased and excited about making this presentation to the board about this development. Dimitri has been recognized with various awards that he's too shy to mention, but for this whole idea of the passive home construction that we'll speak to. And with that, Mr. Chairman, let me turn it over to Michael Delafave from Rhodey Construction. He's just going to highlight briefly the concept of the passive homes, and then we'll turn it over to Eric.
Do you want your presentation, Michael?
I would like to present personally, if that's okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. Mike Delafave, Rhodey Architects of 535 Albany Street in Boston. I'm an architect there and a studio director, and I'm primarily here to kind of reintroduce you to the architectural team, and then reintroduce you to this notion of passive house, and speak a little bit about what it's about and our successes with it. So excuse me just one second, I'm going to share my screen. And I can see that it's up there. Is that nice and big for you all?
Can you X that, Bill? Bill, X the people.
He's sharing the screen now.
No, but X the people thing. That one. There, go on, there you go. There we go.
Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned, Dimitri is off on the right-hand side of the slide. with his wife Elena. And then in the middle of the picture here, that's Kevin Diebler. He's the principal in charge on this project. He's the founder.
You need to advance the slides.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. How about that? Is that better? Yes. Okay. Dimitri and Yelena, and then Kevin Diebler here in the middle. This is myself, and this is Katya, who's a certified passive house designer. And of course, we wouldn't be a complete team without our real estate team as well. So this team has been working together on multiple projects at this point. And just to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've done, this is a Glenville project in Boston, which is a series of townhomes that are in the Alston-Brighton neighborhood. We won an award for that with the Boston Society of Architects. We're very proud of this. And then years later, Dimitri came to us again with this notion of creating some single-family homes in West Roxbury. And these homes have been kind of acclaimed as well. They were featured in the Wall Street Journal. And then we recently just won an award in Metropolis Magazine for their Planet Positive Awards. The team has been working hard and well together. As an example of our kind of proven success with Passive House, this is the Brucewood homes. So these are 3 homes in West Roxbury. They're the first internationally certified passive homes in the city of Boston. And then we've been featured in a collection of other periodicals, NBC 10, Boston 25, et cetera. So we're very proud of that. And what's really exciting and different about these homes is that we don't even really classify them as being green homes or sustainable homes. These are high-performance homes. And I think that's really important to state, is that these are high-performance spaces. These are high-performance envelopes. The quality of spaces that are inside these homes are sort of second to none. There's been great stories from the people who lived here. But as you can see, just to give you a sense of the level of craft that not only Rody, but that Dimitri is here to show you that the level that we execute these buildings at is at a very, very high level. So we use lots of natural materials, natural woods. We're using recycled polyash siding, natural aesthetic for the retaining walls, as well as great light-filled spaces with great kind of indoor air quality and natural light. So as I'll show you in a minute, we really use the power of the sun to harness that and to make these homes really not only be great spaces, but great temperature as well. So we are using these 5 principles of Passive House, which is airtight construction, increased insulation, high performance glazing, energy recovery and ventilation, and then we try to reduce as much thermal bridging as possible. And then these are the metrics on the right-hand side of the page that we use for part of our certification process. And I'll just point out the one in the middle here, air tightness, as a measure that is maybe a little bit easier for everyone to understand. So this is 0.6 air changes per hour at 50 Pascal, which is a pressure that we put on the homes. And to put that in perspective for you, code is more closer to 5 ACH 50. And the wonderful 100-year-old home that I live in is probably closer to about a 15. So just given those, there's no drafty windows, there's really not much air leakage at all. And let me just show you a little bit of what we do with that. So this is how we deploy the Passive House principles. So just kind of moving, I guess, kind of right to left here. Triple glazed windows that are have great mechanical fastening so that they really seal themselves when they open and close. We have super airtight envelopes, so this blue line kind of runs around the perimeter and underneath the slab. All of these homes are slabs on grade, which is important to note. There's no basements in these homes. And then we are utilizing the power of the sun. So the sun comes in the wintertime. It comes in, it heats up a thermal mass as our first floor. And then that thermal mass is able to radiate heat throughout the home in order to heat the home during the wintertime. We're optimizing shading as well to break the sun in the summertime so that it doesn't overheat the homes, but also maximizing in the summertime. We reduce thermal bridging, so there's less eaves and overhangs that tend to happen, as well as a highly thermal envelope. So the roof here is closer to around an R80, which is much higher than I think many of homes that are traditionally built are, and close to R40s in the wall construction. And then we bring it all together with this energy recovery unit or this ventilator. This does a couple of things. It circulates the heated or fresh air throughout the building in order to keep a nice constant temperature, but it also has great filtration. So all of the pollutants that you're probably feeling in the air right now would be filtered out in the homes in order to make the air quality much, much better. So our intent here is to take this same notion of passive homes and deploy 20 of these homes in a very respectful way to the land that we're talking about here at Zero Eagle Rock Road. So these are just some images from a collection of our site walks. We at Rhodey Architects take the site extremely seriously. It is a very important part of our work, and we draw great inspiration from that. So a couple of collection of just images of some of the ledge that's here, some of the pathways. This is a vernal pool, which you know about, and some of the vegetation as well. And then just to kind of cap this off, we're merging our site approach with a collection of homes. So these are some passive homes that we've designed in the past, but it gives a sense of what we like to do, what we need to do in terms of the landscaping and any tree removal in order to optimize shading. We traditionally have large south-facing windows, usually some light monitors to bring light in. We have sun shading. Typically, there is solar panels facing south on these as well. And there is, typically some massing shift that we do at the ground level in order to minimize where the homes touch the ground, because we want to reduce the amount of area in which we're touching and dealing with the foundation. So with that, I wanted to just give you a quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about this. We're really excited about the project. Really excited to kind of deploy the next collection of passive homes. We have great ambitions for what this development can do. So again, I'll just turn that back over to you. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have one question. I didn't think you could build houses without a foundation in Massachusetts. Is there a frost wall, or how is that slab constructed?
We actually construct this on a raft slab. So raft slabs are permitted, and there is compacted earth or compacted gravel that goes underneath the slabs, and then each slab is somewhere between 6 and 12 inches thick, and then that is over another 6 inches of insulation, and we use a high dense insulation. And what this does is it basically liberates the foundation from the ground so that there's no frost heaving. We also continue the insulation out 2 feet, or actually 4 feet, around the perimeter of each house.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions of Michael, at least at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Eric Diaz to talk about the site and some of the issues that Eric has been addressing since he came on board. Eric?
Thank you all very much. Good evening. Bill, if you can pull up the landscape, excuse me, not the landscape, the layout plan in the sheet, that would be in the set, that would be fantastic. I'm sort of the new guy to the group. I think when this group was before you, back in October at least, I was not a part of the team at that point. I came on probably somewhere around the turn of the year, give or take. I know Dimitri and his team have been at this project, even behind the scenes, for quite a long time. And when Dimitri had kind of reached out to me and asked if I could kind of help out and take a look, I was very intrigued by the idea of the passive house. I thought it was a really cool project, and part of the reason that we asked Michael to just kind of go over the requirements of the house tonight is for two reasons. One, again, I think it's a really cool idea and concept, and beyond that, though, it does inform how we design the site. So it kind of segues into what we're going to talk about now. As Barry had said, this was originally started out as a traditional subdivision, but this site in and of itself has some challenges with that, right? It's kind of surrounded by wetlands. Right at the mouth of the site, right at the entrance from Eagle Rock, there's a giant knob of ledge. Every time we go out there to do test pits, we got to bring a crane in to lift an excavator over it. We pass through some buffer zones on our way into the site to get to the upland portion, but once we get there, we've got to go to the amount of ledge there as well. So this site is sort of uniquely suited to this type of design, right? Because we don't have foundations. No contractor, no developer wants to be out there with a hammer or blasting foundations for 20 units. So this concept lends itself well here. When I came on board, this concept, this layout existed, and I don't know if I'm clear if this board has seen this particular layout before, but Bill, if you can just go to the next sheet. So basically, where this isn't a subdivision, the main, what we'll call road that you see that comes in off of Eagle Rock and then loops around and back out, it's not technically a road, it's technically a glorified driveway because there's no subdivision that's going on here, but it is designed to a 24-foot pavement width. It does meet all of the fire department's requirements for access and turning radii and things like that. The rest of the houses are all serviced on some combination of common or individual drives. And where we have the common drives, the pavement is obviously wider for passing distance, and then we neck down to thinner at the individual units. So this layout did exist before I kind of became involved, but we tweaked it a little bit. We moved some things around. You don't really see it much from a bird's eye view, but one of the things that we did, just more of a conservation thing, but we were able to reconfigure the horizontal geometry of the roadway to limit our disturbances within the wetland buffer zones, which obviously is a Concom thing, but always worth highlighting that we are conforming to the town's conservation setbacks with regard to the roadway and everything else at this point, which is very good. Where we did start making some pretty substantial changes, Bill, if you can go to the next sheet, is vertically with the grading of the site. So one of the things that the passive homes really rely on is saving existing trees, right? They want mature trees on the southern exposure for the shielding of the sun and things like that. So as this board has probably seen a million times, right, 90% of the subdivisions that come through here, you just scorch the earth. You cut all the trees down, right, and you repopulate it after the fact. And the reason that contractors and developers do that 9 out of 10 times is, to be honest, it's easy, and easy means cheap. That's not the case here. These homes don't function the way that they're intended to if you do that. So one of the challenges of this site is grading it out in such a way that we're limiting the amount of blasting that we're doing and ledge removal that we're doing, and at the same time saving as many trees as we possibly can, which is kind of a little counterproductive to the way these things are usually designed, but it was challenging, and it was a really cool opportunity. I call it an opportunity because we don't get to do stuff like that often. So if you look through here and as you zoom in, you'll see wherever we could, we're matching grades to existing. We're keeping things high on the site, so we're not cutting things in. We're not removing any more ledge than we have to, and we're not disturbing any more trees than we have to, which is a pretty cool idea. And then that translates to the drainage design. So we've looked at the drainage design on this 100,000 different ways probably at this point. I think a concept that you saw early on probably had one great big stormwater basin down low on the site near the wetland. We took a look at trying to make this as we'll call it LID as we can, right? That's kind of the concept that we're going with the houses, so we want the site design to match that. We were able to break up the stormwater into 3 separate areas that will control the runoff and treat it. In the back 2 corners, as you're looking at this, where Bill's cursor is now, and then page north of that, we have 2 smaller stormwater basins that will collect and discharge runoff in a controlled fashion. And then as you go down, up on the page, there you go, between the area where we have the development and the wetlands kind of toward page north, we have this very reasonably steep existing slope that's there that's very well vegetated. As we started to develop this, everything that we did to control stormwater management on that side with traditional basins or rain gardens or what have you, just ended up in more tree clearing, right? Which for obvious reasons with regard to the functionality of the house, we don't want that, and it doesn't really fit the character of what we're trying to do. So what we did was try to take advantage of that existing slope, right? That slope will treat and recharge stormwater runoff kind of on its own merits as long as we don't really mess with it. So what we did is further down on the slope, just outside of the wetland, we pushed back and we built a berm into the slope. And it's just something that we're calling a containment berm. The whole point of the berm is that it takes the runoff from the upper portions of the site, collects it rather than just letting it free flow out into the wetland. And it controls the release of that water. So strategically placed at 2 of the low points along their natural flow path, we do have some outlet control structures that are basically glorified manholes. They're going to outlet the water in a controlled fashion. It allows us to limit our clearing. It's long and thin, and from a design perspective, as long as we have the length that we need at the proper elevation, we can kind of meander it around trees and things like that and pick our path of least resistance to some degree. Obviously, we don't deviate crazily from the plan, but if we can move it a foot here and avoid cutting down a giant pine tree, then it gives us the ability to do that. And it also takes any area of clearing that we have to make for that feature and pushes it away from the houses. So there's still a very big buffer, not only between the proposed houses and where that berm would be, but that berm is on our side of a wetland complex. So all of the abutters that would be page north from there aren't looking at a stormwater feature either. They're still seeing the same trees that they do when they look out their back door now. So we thought that was a pretty cool idea. Beyond that, the site will be serviced by on-site septic. It will be a community septic system, community leaching field. It's under the 10,000 gallon a day threshold, so it is governed by Title V and would be reviewed and ultimately approved by the Board of Health, who I believe also has an outside third-party consultant that's working with them on that. What we did do, though, is in this set of plans, we included the collection network for the sewer to prove that it works. It gets everything to the tanks, which are located sort of along that kind of blank side of the road, driveway that you see there, to show that everything does make it there. And then from there, getting it to the leaching field it's pumped, so it's kind of whatever we need it to be at that point. We do anticipate submitting the septic design to the Board of Health, which will obviously be also reviewed by the engineering department very shortly after this meeting. Kind of wanted to get through this, and we've got Concom later tonight just to make sure there's nothing earth-shattering that's going to hit us before we take it to that next level. And then the only other utility to talk about really is water. So we are not proposing to bring water to the site. We're going to do individual wells for the units. But we have proposed, in concert with dealing with the fire department, a 10,000 gallon cistern sort of in the loop of the site there that will provide fire protection, hydrant use, and things like that. And they're on board with that. Ultimately, the final design of it is, subject to their review, but that's what we've discussed with them. From there, those are the finer points. I won't get into too much more detail unless you'd like us to. We do have a report from the Developmental Services Department. We didn't venture to respond to that in time for this meeting. We didn't want to throw a whole bunch of information at anybody before the meeting. But we have reviewed it. I don't see anything in there that's going to really change the game plan significantly, that changes the design. I think we can address that. We also just received comments from the Conservation Department tonight. Same deal. We want to respond to everything comprehensively. nothing earth-shattering in there either. We do have a landscaping plan and a lighting plan that we've submitted to the planning office. I know Bill and I discussed, after this meeting, hopefully sometime next week, I think we'd like to sit down with department heads and go through the project and all the comments as a whole, just to hash some things out, make sure that we're all on the same page, get one final set of plans put together, and hopefully get back in front of you folks with some good news. But we certainly wanted to come here first tonight, get any comments that the board has so we can incorporate and answer any questions that you have.
Any comments the engineering department wants to make at this time?
I'll sort of, the landscaping and lighting were submitted later, and I said that's something we can work on. Obviously, I've told them in looking at it that from a landscaping, or lighting perspective, you can have your lights on your individual houses. We don't want to be in that business, on looking at lights on individual houses and those sorts of things. It's really about providing, for lack of a better thing, lighting for the quote-unquote street, the driveway, providing safe lighting for the driveway. And as far as landscaping goes, looking at making the common areas attractive, not looking at landscaping around the individual houses, because it's single-family houses, but it's all on one lot, so they're essentially condos. It's a single-family condo is what it is, and I don't think that the board wants to be in the business of looking at the landscaping around anyone's house. We want to look at, even though it's not a subdivision, let's look at the driveway, street tree type things, entryways and some common areas to make it look good. Everything around the houses will be theirs. So that's kind of where we are, and we'll be discussing with them. With that, Nick is filling in for Craig. So
I just said earlier, we got the guy who does all the work.
and we've taken out,
Craig's not here for the glory today.
Yeah, so.
Thanks, Bill, and the members of the board. Eric and team, thank you for the presentation. It was actually very informative.
Thank you.
Eric, the plans look good, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't give you a list of items to take a look at.
Absolutely.
We do have a comment letter with about 33 comments on here, but we won't go through them all. I'll kind of just touch base on the ones that we kind of found important to talk with the team. As you mentioned, it is a flexible development. Some of the requirements in that are the preliminary subdivision plan to establish the number of allowable dwelling units. If you could submit that.
That was my question. I couldn't remember on the first time whether that was actually submitted. That's why I was just looking and see.
So that was actually my fault as the new guy. I sort of maybe assumed that it was submitted when this flexible development was kind of determined that we were going to go this way. It turns out it wasn't. We have it. I can get it to you. Not an issue.
And just to clarify, the subdivision, hopefully he'll just submit what the previous engineer did.
Pretty much.
So he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. If you do recall the board, that was an 18-lot subdivision. They are required to have 2 affordable units, and the board did acquiesce to allowing this development to be 20 in order to make it financially feasible for the 2 affordable units. So that's why, just to remind you, that's why it's 20 and not 18 when you see it. But the board discussed that quite a long time ago.
I thought the number had changed,
Huh?
I thought the number had changed.
Correct,
I
and the
thought
reason
went
it
from
did
24 down
change-
to 20, but you're saying it went from 18 up to 20.
It went 18 to 20. The board, when they submitted the flexible subdivision, the board did agree that, due to the affordable requirement, that they would allow, under this flexible development, they would allow the 2 units and above. That's, to make it,
Okay.
it's these to make them
I'll
affordable.
go back in my notes. I don't know whether that was a Bill thing. or a
Yes,
board
sir,
thing.
you did.
Bill thing.
One thing that
I think Bill's bringing in his side of it.
No.
One thing that I might mention, just kind of in that regard, and I don't know that it's necessarily in Stoughton's flexible bylaw, but most flexible bylaws have a provision for a bonus unit or two if you're dedicating more open space than the minimum that's required. And just as a side note, that it may not be in the bylaw, but in the spirit of such things, we are, and I should have mentioned this, dedicating much more open space of this property than is actually required to meet the flexible development requirements. So, little bonus to the town, I suppose.
So, actually, I have a couple of questions. So this being,
Can Nick
I'm
finish?
sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh,
Let
no,
Nick finish.
yeah, no problem.
Sorry,
I'll be
Nick.
quick. So just sticking with the flexible development requirements, the designation of the open space, as you just said, the 20% minimum, the intended ownership of that, if we could get that as well, and then this is the designation of the affordable housing location of the units shown on the plan. Then getting into just some of the site plan approval requirements, development impact statement, and obviously, you can request waivers too, and if that's a route we'd like to take. An existing conditions plan, there was an existing conditions plan shown. We'd like to see that. The curbing was a little tough to see and read on the plan, so if we could just kind of identify that, that would be great. Just a couple other main ones. The road grade at the entrance. Just get that flattened out just a little bit.
We can take a look at that, sure.
Look at that for the 2%. You talked about the sewer collection system. Some of the pipes seem pretty shallow. We'd like to keep them at the 5 feet. I know you're dealing with, ledge here, so it might be tough, but we would like to see those at 5 feet, if you can. And then the cisterns, as you mentioned, for the fire suppression, just getting those approved by the fire department.
Sure.
And then I know you talked about the water. I might have missed it. Did you say there were going to be individual wells or a community well? How's that?
I believe the intention is individual wells. I believe that's the intention, yes.
Okay.
Certainly not municipal. If it ends up that a couple end up in an agreement on each well, couple drawing off of one well or something, that may come down the line, but that's not the intent.
Okay, great. And yeah, that was pretty much the overview of our review letter. If anyone have any questions, we can answer those.
Just one thing to note on the existing conditions, we do have those plans, they're done. The only reason I didn't include them in this submittal was because they haven't changed since anything that you guys saw the last time. I was just trying to save paper. But I did note, I think in the letter, that once everything's worked out, there will be a final set of plans with all sheets that will obviously go to the record for however many copies we need.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. This here being a condo association, so to speak, so there's not going to be any age requirement on it?
No age restriction.
Right. So basically, there'll be younger children in the area and all that. My concern or question is leading up to is, kids mess things up. And by that, what happens is, with properties, how are they distinguished as far as, okay, this is my house, this is my grass,
Sure.
your kid is over there dropping,
Sure. So typically in a case like this, what there is there's some sort of, we call it a condo association, call it a homeowners association, whatever it is. But oftentimes what happens is there's basically a condo plan that gets drafted that defines common areas, individual areas, things like that, that ultimately ends up in the legal documents for it, whether it be deeds, association agreements, things like that. So those areas would be defined on that plan, and then if they needed to be, they could be monumented somehow in the field, whether it be, monuments, iron rods, whatever it is. But certainly I think what we'd want to do, there would be, in those association documents, there would be a covenant that would allow people to put up a fence along their boundary, or maybe not a certain type of fence, or everything has to be kind of, of the same kind, so things look
keep the
good.
kids out,
Yeah, exactly. So there are definitely ways to do it. That's typically something that's handled by the association at that level, though.
Okay, well, I mean, that's my concern,
Sure.
because over the years, like I said, kids have a tendency to make it messy.
They do.
And That being the other question I have is, with children in the area, this is going to be a private way, so the school bus would not travel down that road, correct?
Likely not, probably. Maybe I could be wrong.
There's no restriction because it's a private way for the school buses to pick up the kids, assuming they're located in the area where the bus goes.
Yeah.
Right, well, Stoughton now has pickup for all students. And what I'm saying is, if they were to pick them up at the very mouth of the driveway, poor Billy, who lives all the way down there,
It's good for him.
What you see, yeah, it is probably good for
Get
them,
a little
but
bit of exercise.
it's not, Peter, you may have seen this, I see it every morning when I drive down 138 towards Easton. You see some of those long roads on the right-hand side where parents will drive down to 138, wait for the school bus to come down, kids jump out of cars, and the school determines where they're going to pick up. And
Right.
certainly my sense would be they're not going to drive through the entire area. They're probably going to require that the kids come down to the beginning of the street, I would suspect.
well, that's, like I said, I see that on Turnpike Street.
Yeah.
I see them coming down, like I said, 6 or 7 cars parked on the edges of Green Drive and all that. So my concern is down towards the mouth of this here, it's, you're going to have multiple cars lined up there, that's one thing.
Bill, there's no way of controlling that from this point until the school bus and everything else, that's going to have to get controlled
Right,
at that
okay, I
level.
just,
It's not, because we can't predict what's going to happen at that
Yeah.
point.
All right.
That's a municipal, it's really a municipal item that they can't predict and we can't predict.
and then trash pickup, you said that's going to be handled within the site itself, correct?
I believe as a private way that it would be on the HOA to provide for their trash pickup. No,
Okay.
yeah. So the HOA would contract with a hauler to come down and, the intention right now is that everybody will have their own trash and recycling bin that they'll just wheel out to wherever the trash truck's going to come through and pick it up. There's not a plan for a centralized dumpster or anything like that.
Yeah, again, I see some of these driveways a long distance, and
They're probably going to have to haul them up to the mouth, I would think. I would imagine a trash truck is not going to maneuver down, to the end of one of those driveways.
no.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
I had questions along the same lines, but the snow removal too, that's going to be part of the HOA?
Snow removal would be part of the HOA. Obviously, intent is like anywhere else, pile it on the sides of the road and cart it out if you can't fit it anymore.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is not a road.
It's a driveway, we understand.
Private driveway.
Richard? No questions this time? The septic system you've got up in the back, so you got the soil absorption field, but that entire area is going to be where the septic system is? Your tanks and everything are going to be all located in that area?
So the tanks are actually, if you look, Bill, can you zoom in between units 1 and 2? Yeah. So if you look on the, we'll call it page north side of the road, can you just pan that way a little bit? Pull it so we can see more of the left. There you go.
Are the septic systems on a convert plan sheet?
Nope, it's right there. So actually, if you go just a little bit further,
Bless you.
so right on the north side of the road that you see there on the edge, you can see that there's a 20 and a 10,000 gallon septic tank and a pump chamber with a valve pit. So,
I see it.
yep, actually, you know what? This thing moves. Let's do it this way. So the sewer network in the roadway that handles all this is all coming down to a central sewer manhole here, and then feeding gravity into a 20,000 gallon tank, a 10,000 gallon secondary tank, then a pump chamber, then a valve pit. The leaching field is back here. And honestly, we prospected this place like crazy. And that's where we found, this way? There you go. This is the area where we found the best soils and the best separation of groundwater, so that's why we put our leaching system here. This is the best central place for us to get everything to a low point on the site and collect it. So we will pump from the pump chamber, probably, I would say, hug the tree line through here to the soil absorption system that way.
So that area, so you're going to need that much field to be able to handle the soil absorption for that?
That field right now is sized on a worst-case scenario. Part of what we're looking at is some ways to actually shrink the size of that field with some newer and alternative technologies, and balance out the grading that we need through that area.
I was going to say, you get a pretty big slope there. If you go with the traditional system, you're going to have to raise it or mess with that system. But there is, you're right, there's percolate systems, other systems out there that you can.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're kind of, not in the middle, but we've got a couple of good options that we want. To your point, we do have a good slope here. What we're trying to avoid is, a 6 or 8 foot wall on the backside of this system to balance everything out. And not that that's the end of the world, but again, it just it's counterintuitive to the intent of the entire design. So we're trying to blend things in as well as we can.
So that area there would just be eventually covered with grasses or whatever, and so you're going to have an open field when you're said and done at that point?
That area will be an open field. As you can see, though, you can see kind of the squiggly line in between here and in between here. We've tried to save as many trees as we can in between this group of houses and where that field's going to go, because, again, when people look out their window, we don't want them to look at an open field. We want them to see the trees and things like that. But yes, we wouldn't, no matter what kind of system we do there, that's going to be as grass. We wouldn't be planting on top of that.
Right, and you're not an unmaintained area, just a wildflower area, or is it going to be?
Yeah, I don't see much of a reason why we need to go back there and be hay in that place. Yeah.
And Nick, I didn't look at the road sizes. Are the subdivision side, the driveway is set up as a subdivision size?
Yes, yep.
What type of berms and stuff are we using?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the berms, the edges of?
Yeah, so that was where we want some clarification on that, the curbing, was it?
So along the driveways, I'll call them the secondary driveways off the main driveway. The main, what we'll call the road, we're proposing Cape Cod berm on both sides to control flows. Along the driveways, we've strategically placed curbs in places where we want to control the direction of stormwater runoff. There are some places where we want to let it almost have country drainage and go to the basin that it's going to. There's other places where we want to collect it, get it into a treatment structure, and then discharge somewhere. So on and off, but we are proposing Cape Cod berm in those locations.
And then the main primary driveway is going to be all Cape Cod berm?
All Cape Cod berm, yeah. Yep.
What about coming in off of the main road? What do we got coming in at that point?
Off the top of my head, I'm drawing a blank. Bill, if you can go back to the sheet before that in that same location, that should say it. Vertical granite curbing on the
It is,
radii.
okay.
Because I believe that's what's on Eagle Rock and Phoenix Lane now, so we wanted to
Correct,
continue
and
that
that's
to
what
the
it
side.
should be the
Yep.
same, it should be vertical granite curb. So there should be, at least on your radiuses and for a distance down there, should be vertical granite curb. in there.
Sure. Right now, we have it shown on the radii, but we can extend it a bit.
Okay.
And you have a ton of ledge there, so you have your granite right there.
There you go.
And I know Bill touched on it earlier that you're just going to have housing lighting, so there's going to be no street lighting at all coming in?
We are proposing lighting along the street, just for general, public safety.
Safety light
Yep,
reasons.
Yep, that will be there. And it'll, even though it's not a quote street, it's still going to be, dark sky compliant, LID, the whole thing.
Is there going to be any sidewalks along that side?
We are not proposing sidewalks.
Anything else as far as presentation for you guys that you would like us to know about at this point in time?
Just that it's a really cool project.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Eric alluded to it a couple of times, just sort of to put things in perspective in terms of the permitting. Eric alluded to the fact that when we get done here tonight, these gentlemen, I'm staying, but these gentlemen are going downstairs to the Conservation Commission meeting, hopefully to wrap up the NOI with them. We recognize this board's policy that we want to have that done before you would close things out. We weren't anticipating for various reasons, you folks closing things tonight. But we are hoping that by, I think we talked about next month,
Yeah.
we should be in a position to have satisfied what Concom is looking for, and hopefully to satisfy whatever this board and the comments that Nick alluded to as well in the technical review memo.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to comment on this project? Or anybody online?
Yes, I'd like to comment.
Excuse me?
Yes, I'd like to comment.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Faye Siegel. Hi, Barry. I know Barry only. I wanted to know who's going to be responsible for the maintenance of the septic system and the community leaching field, and how would you, what if something happens where, you know, people don't pay, you know, their fees to the HOA? Also, just as a secondary, we have frequent power outages here, frequent power outages, and have you any backup systems proposed for when that might happen?
If I may, through the chair, with regard to maintenance of the septic system, it will be a requirement of the homeowners association. However, one additional sort of protection that is built into this is because it's a system that is over 2,000 gallons a day and is pressure dosed, we are required to provide an operations and maintenance plan that goes with the application and the permit for the septic system installation and use, and that requires periodic inspections and record keeping and things like that. So that helps safeguard as far as making sure the septic works correctly. And I'm drawing a complete blank on her second. Oh, power outages, yes. Very good information to have. I did not know that. We are not proposing any backup power at this time, but as you folks know, we can show whatever we want on a plan. A lot of the power requirements come down to the power company. So, you know, we will certainly
I
have
guess
that
what she's
discussion
asking is there any proposal for a backup plan from the power company, whether you could put a generator in at least to deal with the, you know, with the septic system and the pumps and stuff that are out there?
It's certainly something that we can look into. Not a conversation that we've had yet, but we will definitely take a look at that.
Mr. Chairman, too, Eric, is the system would actually be designed to handle 24-hour storage if there was a power outage, correct?
That is correct, and that's why there's a 20,000 gallon tank and a 10,000 gallon tank. So the way the system is designed, exactly what Nick said, if the lights shut off and all the power went out, everybody, all 20 homes would still be able to flush their toilets and function as normal for a minimum of 24 hours. So.
Well, if they lose power, they're not going to have pumps to pump the water into the house.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. So, all right, I guess that argument doesn't really work then.
Well, you get one
anything else,
flush
Faye?
per toilet.
One.
Faye, is there anything else you'd like to comment on?
Sorry, I'm getting, yeah, let me think. Is there going to be like are you going to be transparent? It sounds like the HOA is going to just be responsible for a lot of things. Are you going to be transparent with them as far as the costs? Are you going to, you know what I mean, as far as their fees and everything? There's a lot to maintain, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Again, through the chair, you know, all of the HOA requirements, documents, projected costs, things like that are disclosed upon prior to sale. It's all part of, you know, when you buy a house, you need to know what the ongoing maintenance is going to be. It's all a part of the closing documents, so everybody does know, not only the homeowners, but obviously they all have the right to have it vetted by their attorneys and legal counsel as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who has any comments? Go ahead, Peter.
Actually, when you mentioned that there's not going to be any sidewalks on the main roadway, I'm actually very disappointed in that, because especially where this is going to be, you know, there's going to be children on the site, they're going to have to walk possibly all the way out to that mouth. They'll be walking in the street, and there's, you know, sidewalks are very important, and there's been a lot of projects I've seen within the town they have sidewalks, and I've seen some without them, so I'm a very big supporter of sidewalks, so if there's no sidewalks there, you're not going to get my support, I'll be quite honest with you.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's something that we can certainly discuss and see what we can do.
And Peter, Nick and I kind of agree with you on that.
Yeah.
We didn't really point that out, but I don't think you need sidewalks around everything. I think you
No,
need. I think they, especially with this passive design and trying to reduce asphalt and everything, I think they need to just figure out one way. You see a lot of subdivisions, they just have a sidewalk on one side.
Yeah,
And
what-
I think providing some accessibility, is something I think it's something that you're going to ultimately want.
Sure.
The other thing about that is, I talk about the children, but I've noticed that, for example, my neighborhood and myself, health reasons, I had a stroke. I had to go out and walk. And what happens is a neighbor down the street, he had a heart attack. He has to go out and walk. So, I mean, at all ages, sidewalks are important.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
And a lot of us are
Mention
getting
the
hip
exercise.
replacements and knee replacements.
Oh, yes.
One thing to bring up about your point about that is, and I should have mentioned this before as well, part of the open space is planned to have a network of walking trails throughout it. That would be for the residents. So it certainly doesn't eliminate your sidewalk comment, but does give a little something else for places for people to walk and get exercise and things like that.
Right, but as someone that had just had a knee replacement.
You might want a
they
sidewalk and not,
smooth,
yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be rocking
relatively flat
up a hill.
surface.
Okay. Anything else from you guys?
No, Mr. Chairman, unless, Dimitri, do you have anything?
Can I?
Faye just raised her hand again.
Faye, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it just sounds like everything's pretty vague as far as the trash pickup and the school pickup, and I can't see how people would, the kids would, walk, and we don't know if they're gonna, the parents will drive down there, or that's kind of assuming they will. And so how far a walk is it for them? And then the trash trucks won't be able to travel on the driveway at all? Is that what you're saying? So they'd have to bring all the trash down to, is that what you were saying? Where would they bring it? Where would people bring their trash?
Right now, we
barrels?
believe that they would just bring the trash to the end of the driveway, if I'm understanding.
The end of their driveway.
The end of their
not-
driveway, correct.
Yes. To the.
It's going to be a private hauler, it won't be the town. And
It'll be
then,
a private, okay.
right, and then the school, as far as the schools go, I've seen too many times where we can plan everything we want around the schools, they're going to go do what they want to do anyway, so I try not to really get into that conversation. I've actually done divisions where we put planned bus stops in that never get used, even though the school department up front says, yeah, we'll do it, and then they never use them, so I don't want to get into what the school department's going to do or they're not going to do.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming you guys would like to ask for a continuance at this point in time?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. I believe the date we had discussed earlier of May 22nd.
The second meeting in May, yes.
Meeting in May. Bill, is that, is that good on your side?
So can I have a motion to accept their continuance to May
So made.
22nd?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you all for your time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A continued public hearing to be held to petition the applicant or property owner, C.J. Shaughnessy Crane Service, for site plan review under section 10.6 to reuse the former Kohl's department store and turn it into a commercial warehouse with outside storage, construction vehicles, equipment, and pelletized equipment. Site modifications consist of security fencing, restriping parking, modification of loading docks, minor landscaping changes, and removal of approximately 150 feet of center landscape median within Technology Drive. The applicant has represented by Bowler Engineering. The property is located at 501 Technology Center Drive, Stoughton, Mass. Assessors map 96, lot 52, and Highway Business Zoning District. Continued from March 13, 2025. Gentlemen, welcome back, Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, not to be redundant, but Attorney Barry R. Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton, here with the applicant represented by Jamie Shaughnessy to my immediate right. and to Jamie's right, Randy Myron of Bowler Engineering. As again was mentioned in the agenda item that the chair read, this is a continuation of the first and so-called only hearing, I meant to say so far, only hearing that we've had before you on site plan approval for this project that was held on March 13th at the library. I participated remotely for that meeting. I will have to say I'm pleased to see that we're back here in this hall tonight. Between the acoustics and the video, it was not too good that night from the library. But in any event, so we had that meeting on March 13th. It was continued to tonight. This project, just very briefly, Shaughnessy has bought the property, by the way. They own the property. They are proposing to convert the former Kohl's department store into a warehouse for both inside storage within the building and outside storage in the former, I say former parking area, but in the parking area of the site. But Shaughnessy has purchased the property. They own it. We got a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals back in January, I think it was, we got the special permit. We got recorded in January, because I know we filed right after then our site plan approval application. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I think I'd like to simply turn it over to Randy to continue with our presentation since that March 13th meeting.
Hi, folks. Randy Myron with Bowler. I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the changes we made based on some of the feedback we heard at the last meeting, as well as from Bill and Craig's tech review memo that we received last month. Is that
Please.
Okay. I think one of the biggest concerns of the board was just in general, just adding some landscaping to the site. So we did a couple things. If you recall, previously for the landscape strip that was facing the restaurants to the, I guess you could call it plan right. It was previously 4 feet wide. There was just a small strip there. We've increased the width of that to at least 6 feet wide. Plus in some other areas, it's quite a bit larger or wider than that. And by doing so, we were able to add a significant amount of shrubs and plantings in that area. And we're also even adding some canopy trees in that area, you can see on the screen now. And in addition to that, there was some additional landscaping added along the right-of-way, along Tech Center Drive. Again, I think this was one of the comments from the board previously. So currently, there's a really nice buffer there that exists today along the street. So that buffer would be maintained, and then we'd really just supplement it by adding a lot of shrubs. I think in total, on the entire site, we're adding over 250 shrubs. A lot of those would be along the right-of-way, again, to help kind of screen that area and provide a nice buffer. And then I know one of the other discussion points that we had last time was regarding the style of the fence.
Excuse me, what?
The style of fence.
The style of the fence.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So really, for security purposes, the Shaughnessy's need an 8-foot-high fence, and we're proposing an 8-foot-high. It's a black vinyl-coated chain link fence. There's a photo of it on page, I think, C901, and it does have some slats in it. It has a nice, clean look, and it's the exact same fence that they used at their facility in Avon, and we can show some photos of that in a little bit also. So that fence would be surrounding the entire.
I thought we had talked
entire
about
area.
along Technology Drive, the chain link fence was okay for the back areas and other areas, but we talked about along Technology Drive that you would use more of a wrought iron, straight type of fence. There was more of kind of go away visual type of setup.
But yeah, so I think, and I'll let Jamie take it, but I think it's really just for security purposes. They need a secure area, and they need, a simple wrought iron fence isn't going to work.
So we did leave off the last meeting that you guys were okay with chain link on both sides as long as we were sufficiently covering it with landscaping. That was how we had left off last meeting.
Okay, maybe I just misunderstood the way we had talked about it being on the back and along the side where the restaurants were, but along that technology drive, I thought we were gonna go with more of an open type of fencing.
No, so you guys had said, that actually, at one point, you guys had said you would be okay with no fencing since there would be
We would
landscape.
be okay with no fencing, but you said you couldn't do it because of security
And- and-
purposes.
and- and
And
that's-
and then at one point, we did say that we thought we could go with an open-style fence. The only reason I'm concerned about the chain link fence and the black wire is because it's gonna, especially in the wintertime, when all this foliage is down, I've driven up in that area, even with your temporary fencing up right now and stuff, it just almost looks like a prison area when you're along that road. I'm trying to make so, because it's a retail road, it's not a construction road, it's not a contractor's road. And I understand that that's what you have, and you've got authorization to be able to do that. I'm just, from a street appeal type of thing, I'm just trying to think we can do something different on that face.
Yeah, absolutely, and I certainly understand that, and our understanding from leaving the last meeting was, I think someone had, gone by the site that day, and in the winter, there are some void areas in that landscaping. So that's why, to Randy's point, we are adding in a lot of added landscaping along that street, so it shields the fence.
But again, is it, what type of, I mean, I'll have to look at the landscape and what it is, because if it ends up being no flowers or no leaves on it in the wintertime, we're back to the same situation I'm just discussing now. I mean, so this is like an evergreen trees or something else that are gonna stay full all winter. You're talking about 6 months of the year that this is gonna look like basically a flat fence that's gonna be 4 feet or 5 foot off the road, and it's gonna be right on, 8 feet high, that's gonna be right on top of people as they're driving by. It just does, from a curb point of view in that area, I just think it doesn't look that good, that's all. And I guess maybe there was a misunderstanding at that point in time, but I thought that we had talked about having an open fence in those areas at that point in time, only for the fact of what it is looking like in the wintertime.
Hey, I have a question. Are you referring to something like Cat did with their fence, Milton Cat?
Yeah, something similar to what that fencing
Right,
does.
'cause I thought that was brought up.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Milton Cat
Milton Cat, yeah, over on
Page Street?
Yeah, they have chain link.
But they get chain link in some areas, but they have the wrought iron style in another area.
But they do have chain link along the road with no landscaping.
All right, go ahead, let's continue on. I don't want to get hung up on this all night long on one piece of fence.
I mean, I think, Mr. Chairman, beyond those two items, I think, there was some other technical items that the engineering department asked us to address, providing an operation and maintenance plan. Stormwater, they wanted the stormwater system to be cleaned at the completion of construction. We provided a truck turning diagram, and we also, on that diagram, we provided just some areas. I think it was a request from the board, just showing where equipment would be stored, vehicles would be parked. So that is kind of, I'd say graphically shown on that exhibit that was provided to the board. And then, some other minor comments. We added a trash area in the back. The two existing compactors that are currently used by Kohl's are going to be removed. And really, that was kind of the highlight of the comments. I guess I would just ask that if Bill could flip to the Avon, to the photos of their facility in Avon. There's some before and after photos we just wanted to show of their Avon facility, just so you can see. Yep, so this is a before photo. And you can see it, and if you flip to the next one, it looks really nice. And then there's a few more photos.
No fencing.
Scroll down to the next one.
Yeah, I think there is fencing. It might be tough to see. But
You just can't see it from this angle,
yeah,
maybe.
you can see it on the right-hand side.
See it on the right-hand, I see it over
right-hand
there now,
side.
yeah.
And that's the same fence that we were proposing as part of this project here.
And the reason why, and I guess the reason why we wanted to show these photos again, because when we go look at that chain link fence with privacy slats, there's certain qualities to the type of fencing you're actually putting there. I mean, if you drive up Maple Street in Stoughton, you see chain link fences with slats that are completely falling over. But this is a very, very high quality fence. And then again, shielded by landscaping with the goal.
So is the
of
fencing going to come down alongside the building also, or is it just going to be in the parking lot areas and past the gate?
Could we go to that plan? So it would, I think, Randy, can you speak to that?
So you're talking about the actual limits of the fence?
Right.
Yeah, so it would come, it's going
It is
to,
going across the whole front of the
it's
base.
going across the entire frontage, yeah, and then it follows up and back. Yep, you can see it, it's this area here.
Why does it need to go across the frontage of the building, I guess, if it's a security issue?
Oh,
The actual limits of the fence are not going to be continuing all the way across here. It's going to come across a drive and then dead end back into the building here.
Thank you.
So this will all be landscape here. And then a gate here for this back entrance.
Okay,
So you're just trying to get each area here.
basically, yeah.
Exactly, and that goes back to the requirements of the special permit.
Okay. Anything else, comments, Bill?
Yeah, they've addressed all the engineering comments, so I can make it easy for Nick. One of the things that during the second design, they were talking about efficiency and when they were looking at the area. They did request from a staff perspective, if they could remove this planter island, and we were like, well, from a landscape and from a engineering standpoint, the square footage of that would need to be added. So if by enlarging the buffer along the fence line that I requested from 4 to 6, and if you recall, all of those big striped parking areas, they've added those all. They've done the calculations, and actually it's, more landscaping. So from a staff perspective, we didn't have an issue with them removing that one. The one thing that changed in this plan from the first one is along here and along here, right along the two areas, and I wrote that, there's existing trees that kind of, block, they kind of, break up that large building. They're proposing to remove them and only plant with, the shrubs that you see here. And as a staff perspective, I had an issue with that. I recommended they not do that, and I agree to disagree, and I said it's actually a board's call. And I kind of put that in my letter. So that's the only thing. From a staff perspective, the removal of that kind of long island there.
I mean, the idea of those islands, and it's even more pronounced if you really do use the code, is because they're supposed to be there to break up the amount of asphalt that we're having on a site, so
Right.
you don't end up with a sea of asphalt.
Right.
And for most parking lots, that's an important thing, so you're just not having a raceway
Yeah.
type of thing, and you're getting planting within it. This is a different use of the parking lot.
Correct. That's why
so
we didn't have
I
an
don't
issue
have a
with that.
major issue not having plants in the middle of it, similar to what we did with Technology Park, because we left
Right.
the areas out because of the trucks.
Right.
I don't have an issue with that. The trees that are in front, I'll leave that up to members of the board, whether they would like them to stay or be part of that discussion. But when we're looking at that, as far as that particular thing, there's a reason for it, and that was what it was.
Right, and we understood their reason, because they've got these big cranes, and it was this is one of their loading areas back here in this area, and we understood, it's not a Kohl's and a retail parking lot anymore that needs the trees for the cars. This is a storage, and we basically said, as long as you can, if it's 4,000 square feet of landscaping that you're going to pave, you need to add 4,000 square feet, and that's what they did.
Okay.
So, and they put it on the perimeter, and we're fine with that.
Okay.
The only issue I have is removing the
trees.
perfectly good trees along that kind of break up that large building.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have any other questions?
I had brought up an issue last time about the remainder of the Kohl's aerial sign that was there, and it just cut off. And, about putting a cap on that or doing something, because at some point, something could happen to, I mean, if you're gonna put a sign there, fine, you know, that's a different issue, but in the meantime, the top of that, I believe, is open, and granted, it's like 15 feet high, but, it's, you know,
Is it the big sign in from the back?
from the back, there used to be an aerial sign that
Oh,
went
yeah,
up-
yeah, oh, I know, they
Right,
took it
and,
down.
Because before you bought the place, I had heard that you were interested in it. You know, I drove around, that was one of the things that I saw, because I remember there being an aerial sign. I asked the question, do you plan on putting a aerial sign there? And you said no, I believe. Now, that's a whole different discussion, but in the meantime, it's a 6 to 8 foot diameter tube. At the top of it, they just took a torch, cut it off, and left it. So somehow either cut it down ground level, fill it off, and do something, cap it. You know, that would be one of my concerns, you know, to alleviate a possible danger of something.
Peter, are you referring to the sign that you see along Route 24, or are you referring to a different sign?
You know, you, at one point.
It's the one back here.
Exactly. It's back in that far upper left-hand corner.
Okay.
Yeah, it's way back in here.
I have a picture on my phone, I can show it to you, and it's, like I said, I think it's like 14 feet high, but it's an open, you know, it serves, you know, if you're not gonna do a sign, it serves no purpose. So, I mean, it's a case of, you know, we're doing all this construction to put that on the pickoff list, that wouldn't be, you know. The other thing is, you said that you made the strip towards the restaurants. You made the strip there from 4 feet to 6 feet. Now, did you go south with that, or did you go north?
To answer your question, there's no change to the actual fence line, but there's also no change to the proposed parking. It's actually, previously, if you remember, it was striped. That empty space between the last parking spot and the fence was striped, just painted stripes.
Right.
And we've added landscaping in that area. Originally, we went with 4 feet, and per the comments of the engineering department, they wanted to see it be 6 feet, so we widened it, but no change to either fence line or parking.
Right, well, my concern is, there's another issue, I don't want anyone to go down that path, but which way did you go, north or south, as far as,
You're saying you didn't. You took a painted sign and made the painted area, made it landscaping.
okay.
No, the 4 foot, the 6, was it just painted? I know that where the trees are,
A small portion of it, it went from 4 feet wide to at least 6 feet wide in the northerly direction.
Right, so any of
towards
those,
your site.
In it, correct.
Yeah. It went towards his site.
No, towards
restaurants,
the restaurant.
Yeah. But there was room there.
You already had
That's correct.
room, you already had the existing room there.
We did, and there was also some striped areas, like Jamie said, that were converted to landscaped islands,
Yeah.
curved
Where you
landscape
see all the
islands.
trees are, those are all the converted striped areas to landscape.
Right, yep.
right.
Anybody else on the board have any questions? No. Anybody from the public here would like to speak on this project? Online or not?
I know, Mr. Chairman, that the person from Darden, I do want to talk about the parking, obviously. That's a civil,
I still think it's something, if there's somebody there that wants to speak about it, it's something we
Yeah.
should bring up. So if they're here,
yeah.
I mean, is there something that you guys have, is the gentleman that's on from the Gardens want to talk? Olive Garden?
Will, are you still there?
Hello, Will? You're not, we can't hear you.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes.
Jamie and I have talked outside of this meeting. Darden doesn't have any comments at this time. We understand that it's a private parking agreement, and we are working on it outside of this meeting.
Very good, then. We won't bring it up.
Yeah, and the only thing from a planning perspective, and I've told both Jamie and Will from Darden, is the one thing that I looked at was the 2 restaurants, the 2 parking requirements, how many spaces are required for those 2 permitted uses, how many spaces are on their existing lots, and how many spaces do they need from O'Shaughnessy. They exceed that. So from a zoning standpoint, you know, if a new restaurant were to go in at Smoky Bones or, you know, whatever, there would be no parking issue from a zoning. I strictly looked at it as, does the parking that's being provided on the 3 lots that's dedicated towards those 2 restaurants, does that meet our current code? And yes, it does.
Okay. So you guys at this point are satisfied with the technical review?
Yeah, the only thing, you know, I didn't write a report, I mean, I did not write a decision. I think that it really is I think the things are, what's your feeling on, you know, removing those trees or not? If you are fine with the re-landscaping of the shrubs and the different things, and the additional landscaping, you know, if you're fine with all that, you could, you know, if you wanted to, you could close the public hearing and instruct me to put a standard set of conditions approval for the May 8th meeting. It's really, I brought up the one landscape.
Do we have a photo of the front of the building with the way it is right now, Bill? Did you take one?
I can do that. Where's our...
Well, he's looking for that, just a comment. In the lower left-hand corner, power comes in from the building at that telephone pole there. And I noticed there was no transformer. Is the transformer inside the building, or?
I'd have to ask Jason, do you know the answer to that?
There.
question?
So those are the trees that are looking to take down?
Here, and then,
On the far side, which you can't see, I understand.
you can see, from here, you can see there's the trees along the one side.
Is there a reason that need to come down?
So the reason for, if you're looking at the front of the building closest to the road on the left side there, the 3 trees,
There.
these 3 trees right here, we are proposing to put our company sign right here instead of putting it where the old Kohl's was. That's where we're proposing to put our new sign. For the time being, if we needed to split hairs, we could leave these trees on this side and just take these to put our sign up on this side.
To compromise.
Oh, leave the far ones?
Leave the far ones and then take those other
Yeah,
ones
leave the
down.
far ones on this side and then just take these 3 here to put our sign up.
Could you
Compromise.
shorten your name so it doesn't take up?
On the fencing in that area, can we go to a 6-foot chain link without any slats in the front, or do you need the slats?
We don't really need the slats, we just need the height.
You need the height, you need the 8-foot height? I mean, I understand down the side and the back, but you need the 8-foot height up front?
With the berm and the landscaping, do you need 8 feet?
Are we talking on the restaurant side or the street?
No, I'm just talking about the street side.
Street
The
side.
restaurant side I can understand, but I'm talking about the street side.
Was Chris from?
I believe Chris said 8 feet, yeah.
Yeah, really. Unfortunately, again.
All right, then let's do this. No slats on the street side then.
No slats,
Okay,
okay.
and just put the slats up the other sides.
That's no problem.
And that way there, it's not going to seem like this overbearing structure
Yeah.
that's there, okay?
Absolutely.
So getting back to my comment about the wires, I saw that from the pole, there's a couple of wires hanging down. I assume that they're dead. But if you're changing the power source into the building, you may want to talk to the source of, not NSTAR,
Yep.
just cleaning that up.
Any comments?
Okay.
on that?
So the wires hanging from the pole are actually communication wire. Our power wires, if you travel down the street down to that corner where he's talking,
Heading towards PJ's. Go to the far corner, Bill, yep. That pole right there.
yeah, so this doesn't show it, but there are 2 wires that hang down here that are communication wires. And yeah, we can talk to them about getting those cleaned up. But as for our power comes off here and goes underground to the transformer directly opposite, which is exterior of the building.
Okay, I did, all right.
So I don't know,
Saw those wires hanging, it's like, you know, if you were,
right.
I dealt with that,
Oh, there they are, right there.
These are guy wires.
Nope, down lower.
Those?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually noticed those the other day walking through, and I looked up and I could see the core. They are communication wires, so we can get them cleaned up.
yeah.
All right, so can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So made.
Second?
All in
So
favor?
Aye.
So you want me to look at doing it for the May 8th meeting as a set of conditions?
Yep,
No slats on the front side.
yep.
The trees closest to the road will cut. You won't do the others. Are you going to remove
Update your- Go ahead.
the pylon sign?
So I know in the last meeting you had mentioned potentially capping it. Is that okay?
Yeah, what happens
We-
is, I didn't climb up there. What I'm saying is, I can just see some,
You do realize that it will be fenced off?
Sure, yeah, that's,
Okay.
yes, we'll cap, so.
yeah.
Just update your drawings so that we can deal with these items, and we'll have them for the next meeting, and just so we have something that corresponds with what his item's going to be.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay? Anything
Randy,
else?
We'll get together next week.
Thank you very
Revise
much.
Plans, email them to me, and I'll write a set of conditions. Should be pretty quick, yep. It should be simple.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Barry, welcome back. I will be back. Oh, no, please.
You've got a couple items before my next one.
We're going to need a second Cynthia chair for you?
I think I got to stop putting time limits on lawyers talking. You did actually not too bad. It was the previous one. You're getting a little bit winded there. Okay. Item number 6. Continued public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant of the property of the owner, SN Square Realty, 810 Washington Street, Stoughton. Review of the section 10.6, renovate the former trust building. This meeting has been asked to be continued to May 8th. Can I have a motion to accept that request?
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 7, new public hearing on case file number SPP 25-001 will be held in the petition of the applicant owner, property owner William Ferraro, Wyman Street 48 LLC, requests a special permit under section 9.3.4 Stoughton Center District Table Use of Regulations, D.16, for the indoor recreation use. The applicant proposes an indoor recreation use called Key to a Maze. The proposal is to renovate the former Napa Auto Parts into an entertainment venue featuring golf, virtual reality gaming, and social activities. The property is located at 48 Wyman Street, Assessors Map 58, Lot 401, in the Stoughton Center District Flex Zone. And the applicant and/or his representative, please come up. Could you turn on your microphone and introduce yourself, please?
My name is William Ferraro.
Could you explain what's going on?
Sure. Yeah, so I am the owner of the Napa Auto Parts store and looking to revitalize that space into a second location of what we currently have in Boston, which is, it's called Key to a Maze Virtual Reality, and we are looking to expand on that and basically turn that into an entertainment space which will be virtual golf bays, virtual reality, and other entertainment, like a family entertainment center, basically.
Where's your location in Boston?
In Boston, it is in Kenmore Square, so basically right behind Fenway Park.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the project, and, I find that the impact of the indoor use, or what they're proposing, is no more increase than the retail use. I think one of the things we look at is, mind you, it was a Napa Auto Parts store retail use, more, 9 to 5. I think these hours, are probably, going to be a little later than the typical retail. The trip generation and the parking requirement is, for this is the same, if not less, than the retail use. So we saw it as a no impact based on the parking code. So we had no issue with it, and we would recommend approval. The one thing that we work with the Board of Health, because they needed to say, oh, well, you need a dumpster. I was like, well, you can't put a dumpster. There's the property goes to the property lines. So then we work with them on how Napa used to do it was, they had it in the back bays, and they would, put it out and have it done. So they've worked on, there's going to be an isolated area in the back, and then they'll have a private trash hauler with the 2-yard or whatever yard and a half, dumpsters. So we're not dumpsters, but the 95-gallon cans. And so the Board of Health was, was good, especially since that the solid waste, a dedicated room, and it wouldn't be commingled. So that was kind of some of the technical issues. But I think it's a good use for the property. And it's a vacant building that's been vacant for quite a long time. And, let's look at, part of the Stoughton Center District is, to bring activity. This type of activity, I think, would be really good. Be more in the afternoons and evenings and weekends, and really, kind of activate the downtown when it's, historically the sidewalks have been rolled up. So that's kind of my thing.
What are your hours going to be? What are your hours going to be?
Right now, in Boston, they go pretty late, but we're actually going to be pulling them back. So probably during the week, probably 10 p.m., and then like Friday, Saturday, maybe till 11 or something like that.
Opening at what time?
Golfers like to golf early, but that's pretty limited. There's only going to be 4 to 6 golf bays, so probably could be as early as 6 a.m. depending on, I don't know. I'm not a golfer, honestly, but I think they like to golf early. So
does it surge? There's a little bit in the mornings, and then
I would assume that
based on your
current location, no, we have nothing in the morning.
Nothing in the morning.
Nothing in the morning. We don't have golf bays. We have just virtual reality headsets and then racing simulators. But so currently, no. We get special. Sometimes we'll have school groups come through in the mornings. They'll come through to as a field trip or something like that. So that would be similar.
Okay.
Is this going to strictly just be virtual golf?
No.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what other types of gaming?
Sure. So currently, the space in Boston is just headsets. So it's not virtual golf. It's actually virtual reality. So we have groups who will come through. We have 12 headsets, and they'll come through and they'll put the heads on, and there's like 30 or 40 different experiences. So you can do anything from checking out the Mona Lisa and the whole story behind it to killing zombies. It's like there's a whole range of things you can do, and it's for it's basically for all ages. Although we do kind of in the Boston location, we do kind of say 13 and over, simply because it's not really meant for like 6 and 7 year olds. It's meant for like a little bit older kids, and other than that, the main footprint would be. In this location would be the golf bays, is my guess, because those take up more space than a headset, right? A headset, you need a 10-foot by 10-foot square, versus one golf bay, I think, is 15 by 20, is what the average golf virtual golf bay is. So we would, ideally have 6 of those on the first floor, and then we'd have some racing simulators like we have in Boston, which are, again, virtual. You put the headsets on, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you get to feel like you literally feel like you're in a stock car. You look around, you're like sitting in the car. And then, so we'd have some of those, and then we'd also probably have, like other like non-virtual experiences as well. Like you might have like some cornhole or darts or something like that. So.
Gonna be no food or alcohol or anything?
We are going to be doing alcohol. What we were looking to do for food is, honestly, we don't have space for a kitchen, and I don't think it would be, honestly, I'm not a very good cook, so I don't think you'd want my food. So we were looking at actually having QR codes on the tables, so if people want to order from Avocados, or if they want to order from one of the, we were looking to work with their local restaurants to have the food run, have food runners come in. And we would actually probably on Fridays, Saturdays, if it's busier, even Sundays, probably have dedicated, staff to run the food if needed. So.
I actually, I did Google, I went to the website of your place in Boston, and it looked like, they had all sorts of different things, and, my kids 10 years, 15 years ago probably would have enjoyed it a lot. I mean, and that's what it seems to be set for. It's not for someone like me who may not appeal to. I'm not to put a headset on or whatever.
Sure.
But I did notice that the food, you can go and have it delivered by Uber Eats or something like that.
Yep.
So the only comment on that is now you're starting to build up trash, so that would be my only concern there.
Sure. Yeah, no, it'd be my concern as well. So that's why we worked with Troop Waste. So I talked with Doug directly about it, and he basically said, we're going to have a dedicated room, and we're going to be doing not just trash, but trash and recycle. I'm big on recycle, so we're going to have trash and recycle, but that would be pickups probably 2 times a week, if not more. I have no interest in having the business stink. So it's like I want to be able to make sure that it's kept clean and it's trash free. So in that space, if we're busy, we need a 3 times a week trash pickup. He's fine with that. It's not like that we're talking a huge impact. So we might have more than likely it's not going to be a 2-yard container. It's going to be more of the 95-gallon totes, as Bill had said. So we probably have 4 of those for trash, and then 2 to 3 for recycle. And then those can, probably Monday morning, for pickup, and then like a Thursday or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that.
Okay. The other thing is you mentioned something about alcohol. So would you be going for a liquor license?
Yes. Yes, we'll be going for a liquor license. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a full license or not, or how that's going to work. We might just do beer and wine. I was looking originally, I was talking with a brewery originally, and we were talking about that, but then I just decided I'd rather just, just go for a liquor license and determine that at the end.
And it's rather ironic, a restaurant establishment or something that serves alcohol and whatnot, that's a permitted use, not part of a special permit. Indoor recreation is, and it's obviously, they're going to have to, whatever the compliance is with, if there's any licenses available, and they're going to have to comply with whatever the licensing requirement is.
No, there's not really a lot of parking around there. I mean, it's, virtually none.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be another concern, but by all means, I'd like to see something go into that building rather than nothing.
Sure. Me too.
Anybody else have any comments?
No.
Anybody?
I got nothing.
Bill, if there's nothing else, we could take a vote on this tonight if the applicant is open for that.
Yeah, now, mind you, it is a special permit. I mean, it's a special permit. We have 1 member, so you have to be unanimous.
I was going to mention that.
You have to be unanimous. So if anyone's wavering, I would recommend him continue to the next thing. But you could take a vote to recommend approval and close the hearing, and I could set up you could
There's gonna be, if there is gonna be, well, there's gonna be some sort of order, or at least a statement
And
of-
do an order of conditions
for the
for
special permit.
do an order of conditions for the 8th.
Do we get anything from the public? Or is it-
Well, my fault, I didn't get anything from the public. I will do that. Is anybody here from the public want to comment on this, or anybody online that would like to comment on it? Okay. So what, I guess my only other question from you is, what's the time frame as far as you doing this and getting this, once we give approval or not approval?
ASAP?
Well, no, but you got to go for a liquor license, which may not be ASAP in
Sure.
this town.
So, understood. As far as construction, I mean, is really we're looking to start this moving now. I mean, the building has been, been actively cleaning it out and getting. I already have the architectural drawings and what we need, and engineering is coming along. So as soon as that comes, I mean, I'm not going to honestly have the liquor license hold us up as far as moving forward with the building, simply because we've already proven the business model in Boston without the alcohol. Now, ideally, I
Just
know
have a different foot traffic there than you're going to have here.
it's very different, and honestly, adding in the golf bays, I think that having the liquor license would be much more conducive to that. So,
Right.
but I'm looking to get going.
So the outside of the building, you're going to paint that, or what are you doing with the outside of it?
So originally, a few years ago, we did have a facade improvement program. I actually helped Pam get that into the city, and so I was looking to revisit that. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to get that done.
Unfortunately, that program doesn't exist anymore.
No? Okay, so I guess I have to go out on my own then. So, yeah. No, we're, yeah.
And in the Stoughton Center District and in the code, the facade improvement is an admin site plan review through my office.
Right, no, I
So,
realize that.
so once he gets the special permit, he can show the before and the after, submit a simple admin, we review it internally, and then we can approve that.
Do you have any idea what the capacity for people would be? 100 people, 50 people?
So, yeah, we're looking for under 50 just initially. I mean, to be honest, this comes down to a budget thing. And when you look at, like, golf bays, right, if we have 6 golf bays, that's 2 or 3 people per golf bay, right?
Yeah, I
And
just
then-
didn't want to make sure you didn't run into a sprinkler
Sure.
issue, too,
And
with the
what
capacity.
what we are looking to do is we are looking to set up a sprinkler room. But honestly, it's not in our budget to do the sprinklers at this point. So we're looking to bring in, do the sprinkler room and potentially bring the service in, or have them run the sprinklers and then tie in at a future date when we can do that. Because I do want to have the building sprinkled regardless of whether we go over the 50 or not.
Okay.
That is my intention.
Okay.
I guess what I would recommend then, where we have 4 people, is that we can close the public hearing, continue it to the next meeting when you could have an order of conditions, then we could vote on the order of conditions and the special permit at that point in time. Okay, that will put 5 members here, and hopefully at that point in time, we can go forward with it. So can I have a motion at this point in time to close this meeting?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to continue to May 8th?
May 8th, and I will draft a set of conditions.
Correct.
Okay. Motion
To continue to May 8th.
to continue to May 8th?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck with it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Yep. Item number 8, a new public hearing on case file number SP 25-007 and SPP 25-002 will be held on the petition of the applicant and property owner of Antonio Rita, trustee, Roma Realty Trust, 15 Felix Street, Dedham, Mass. Requests a site plan review under section 10.6 to construct an 18-unit, 3-story multifamily building with parking, landscaping, drainage, and site improvements. The special permit request is to follow for the following waivers. Section 6.1.7.9 to allow the parking within the front yard setback, 6.1.7.10 to allow the refuse truck to back into Wyman Street, Section 6.4.4 to allow the clearing of trees on the lot, and Section 10.6.10.1 to not provide traffic impact assessment, The properties are located on 3 and 23 Morton Street, Assessors Map 54, lots 421 and 422 in the Stoughton Center District, the Flex Zone. Have the applicant and/or his representative please come up. You're there.
For the record, my name is Scott Henderson of Henderson Consulting Services. I'm the project civil engineer. Our legal counsel, Barry Crimmins, will be back up with us. He popped downstairs to check out the Conservation Commission.
That's fine, you can keep going.
Barry's moving kind of slow.
We will get out earlier.
Yeah, if we're fine without Barry, we're good.
And we'll make sure he doesn't charge you.
Chop, we'll get going. Also with us tonight, digitally, Mike McKay, our architect, is here, and Sean Papich of Papich Landscape Consulting is our landscape project landscape architect. Those guys will chime in a minute. As was stated in the reading for the application, this is an application to develop a currently undeveloped site. Go to the existing conditions plan. Thanks, Bill. You're likely familiar with this property. It's at the corner of Morton Street and Wyman. It consists of 2 parcels, but really there's sort of 3 parcels in question here. At the intersection, you have 3 Morton Street. That's the pointed parcel, the larger one where the building will go. 23 Morton Street is to the south of that. That's a sort of wooded parcel now. And then bisecting that development site there is a 15-foot wide private right-of-way. We maintain control of 100% of the southern half of that right-of-way because we own both those properties. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to extinguish that right-of-way, and that's effectively our property as part of the development. The northern portion of that right-of-way, the owner to the west does have rights, fee simple centerline rights to that right-of-way, and they'd like to maintain those. So that's something worth considering when we sort of get into the details of what we're doing for the development program. The site was previously developed. There were buildings on both those lots back in 2010. I believe they were demolished as well before my time practicing here or being involved with the project. So presently everything is just considered undeveloped. It's sort of a barren gravel, demolished and sort of unmaintained area. The proposal here is the construction of a 17-unit apartment building. You'll note on the site plans that it states 18 units. That is a Scrivener's error on my part. The architectural plans, however, are consistent. We are proposing 17 apartments for the project. That building is located entirely within the 3 Morton Street property. And then we're utilizing the southern portion of that private right-of-way and the bulk of the 23 Morton Street parcel for our parking lot to the south. As drawn now, this parking lot shows 18 spaces to serve the 17 units, and our access is located at the southeast corner of the building. It's a 24-foot wide. Well, on this plan it says 20 feet wide, but we're going to upgrade that. We'll get to that. We have a driveway access off of Morton Street there, and then all the parking is off the plan left. There's a second curb cut proposed on Wyman Street there. That's the top of the page. You'll see a 16-foot wide access. That's strictly for trash truck access. We're going to put our dumpster enclosure to the north of the building there, which allows us a couple things. We can sort of keep pedestrians and the tenants parked on one side of the building or one side of the lot, and we can prevent through traffic. So that was one thing that our initial sort of sketches of developing the site, we were considering maintaining that private right-of-way as sort of a through access, but in discussions with the engineering department and with Bill, we agree with this. It's better to sort of isolate that and prevent that sort of through traffic. So we're separating those things. So we have access for tenants, for parking, and then strictly for trash truck up top there. If you want to go to the next sheet. Well, let me see. One significant component of the development is that presently along the Wyman Street and Morton Street frontages, there's no sidewalk, there's no curbing. That intersection is sort of wide open and undeveloped. So we're working with the engineering department to put 5-foot wide sidewalks, vertical granite curb around the entirety of our frontage. Also shown on the plan here, we're going to provide pedestrian access from those sidewalks to the existing sidewalk on the north side of Wyman Street and on the south side of Morton Street. In terms of details of that curb line and that sidewalk, I had some extensive talks with Craig about this. I don't know if you're familiar with the intersection in general. It's kind of difficult to navigate. You have Wyman Street coming in, you have Morton Street cutting through, and Summer Street coming down to the south. It's likely that there will be a significant change to that intersection as a whole, outside of the purview of this project, but obviously we're a critical component of that at that intersection. So we've drawn the sidewalk here and that curb line based on some initial discussions that I had with Craig, but I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure Nick can speak to this, the engineering department is going to engage the town's traffic consultant to look at future improvements at intersection, and however we end up laying out our sidewalk and curb line will coincide and fit with that overall improvement. But at this point, this is sort of what we're hitting on now. Utilities for the project are fairly straightforward. Stormwater management, we're capturing roof runoff via downspouts internally in the building and a main roof leader into a subsurface infiltration system below the parking lot, and then all paved areas on the site, the parking lot and the access for the trash truck. We have catch basins and closed drainage that are routed through treatment train and into that same infiltration system. There were review comments on the technical review letter related to the drainage. I don't see any of those of having a substantive impact on the overall plan. The details might change a little bit, dimensions, some pipe runs, things like that. But the general scheme that you see here is what we're going to stick with, ideally, for stormwater management for the project. We're capturing and containing up to a 100-year storm on the site, so it's pretty good. Water services and sewer will connect to Wyman Street. Again, there's some comments in the technical review related to that. Fairly straightforward. We'll have a separate domestic and fire protection service. We're engaging an MEP to do detailed drawings for the building and sprinklers, and we'll make sure that we size those pipes accordingly and coordinate that with the engineering department. Sewer will be one connection onto the main on Wyman Street, and there'll be no gas service for this building. It'll be all electric. So we're putting the transformer between the dumpster enclosure there and the building, sort of on the northwest side of the building, and we anticipate a 1,200 amp service running to that transformer and into the building from there. We can go on to the landscape plan, and I'll turn it over to Sean Papich if he wants to talk to that. He's on the Zoom call here. Huh?
Thank you, Scott. Sean Papich, Landscape Architecture, 222 North Street in Hingham. Thanks for pulling that up, Scott. I appreciate it. What you see on the plan is essentially a landscape plan. Serves a fair amount of purposes. We feel like it's a pretty robust landscape plan. Some of our mission on this plan was to soften the certain parts of the landscapes, soften the parking area with evergreen trees, as well as shade trees, as you'll see in the larger circles. Evergreen trees you see along the edges, essentially trying to green up the edges of the parking area and help screen adjacent neighbors and also screen and help their view from viewing into the parking areas. And when we look at the building itself, we also incorporated some shade trees up the northern area of the property, and that intent was really try to get some larger trees you can get to grow in an area that's not a real large space. So we tried to incorporate shade trees where we could, where we have the space, and where we weren't able to do that, if you see the kind of the dark circles, the larger dark circles, again, evergreen trees that we use there. We listed them in our plant legend, a variety of evergreen trees, combination of eastern red cedars as well as western arborvitae, something that should be maintained at a reasonable size, but also get a little bit of height. You also see a fairly robust planting against the building pretty much all the way around, and essentially incorporating a mix of evergreen and deciduous shrubs. In doing that, really trying to soften the edge of the building, which we think is a pretty attractive building anyway, but this should help to soften it in some ways and help screen just a little bit of the major intersection. Other elements that we were proposing were a little bit smaller. Some of the other ground covers and perennials we're using near the entries of the building. It kind of covers, for the most part, real broad view. Look at it, you'll see the plant legend that we have listed on our drawings also. If you want to chat about any of the plant material selection, certainly we can speak to that too, but I could pass it back to Scott. Thanks, Scott.
I think at this point, we'll turn to Mike McKay, our architect. You could talk to sort of the building plans a little bit. Bill, if you keep scrolling, you'll get into the architecturals, I think. Yes, there we go.
Thank you, Scott and Sean. Michael McKay. I'm principal at McKay Architects, 35 Bryant Street in Dedham. Chairman and members of the board, we're really excited about this development. We've worked with the Rader family on several buildings in Dedham, and this is we think is a nice improvement to this corner in the neighborhood. We're proposing a 3-story building. I think a lot has been said about the count. Just quickly, in the unit mix, it's 11 one-bedroom and 6 two-bedroom units. This is a rendering looking at the corner. It doesn't necessarily reflect the landscaping. This is more of a building rendering, trying to just to show materials. The ground floor will be a precast stone, kind of mimicking a limestone. Then the upper 2 floors are siding. We have elevations that show all of this, but this is just gives you more of a general overview of the building. Heavy cornice lines broken up at the second level, just to try to break the scale of the building. It's 34 feet from grade to the top of the parapet, and then we have concealed mechanical, just small condensers, just suitcase-sized condensers on the roof. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is the ground floor plan. As Scott mentioned, the entry is the southeast corner. In this case, it's the lower left-hand corner. It's accessible both from Morton, but also to the rear, accessing the parking area. We have obviously an elevator, 3-story building. All units are type 1 accessible units in the Architectural Barriers Board regulations. Bike storage, laundries in this case, the laundries will be public laundry on each floor. So this floor is a little bit of a hybrid. It has the lobby, mailroom, bike storage, and then the upper floors, the upper 2 are the same. You go to the next one, please. It steps back on that entryway. It's just a 1-story building, and then the residential part, the main portion of the building, is the 3-story. Again, just try to break up the scale of it. Just a typical floor plan. The top floor is the same as this one. The next one, I'm trying to go fast because I know it's late. The next drawing, please. It's the roof plan, and all the condensers, as I mentioned, would be concealed within just a low fence. We have the parapet already sticks up a little bit that will hide the condensers, any noise that might be generated from them, although we don't expect any. And the next one. So this is the Morton Street elevation that just provides more technical information, window sizes, shapes, quite a bit of trim, as I mentioned, so it's not all siding. And that heavy cornice line is something that we like to do, and we've had success with it in this type of building. The materials are familiar to a triple decker, let's say, or and some of the houses in the neighborhood or nearby. And I think that's You know, we don't have to look at every elevation. They're pretty much consistent all the way around. That's right at the corner if you were looking at Morton and Wyman. You know, but it steps back. Each one of those cornice lines shows the stepping of the building. It's just not a flat facade at all. And the next one is the Wyman Street. And that's again is broken up quite a bit. It's just not a flat building at all. Sometimes the developers wish it was a little flatter, be a little easier to build, but it makes it more interesting for us. And the last view is the side facing the parking lot. So that one-story structure is the entrance lobby, and then it steps back to the three-story. And I'm not sure if I have any more. That might be, maybe there's one more sneaking underneath. Oh, a couple of sections. Okay. So that's it from our end. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. I do like the design of the building. It's one of the nicer designs we've seen in a little while, especially with the way things have been going today. One of the questions I have is, what's the material on the lower section of the building, the flat material that you're showing?
It will be a stone. Ariscraft is a manufacturer. It's a precast concrete that will be running bond. It's about 16 inches high by 24 inches, and it's a running bond. And the best way I could describe it is it's a limestone look. We haven't picked a color yet, but we're thinking it's going to be something similar to what is shown.
So if you can, I see,
it's a stone.
Blowing up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
If you could either, get us some photos or samples of the colors and the types of things you're going to use so that we can get a feel for the colors and what's going on there, I'd appreciate it.
I could absolutely, the next meeting I can bring, I'm sorry I'm not being in person tonight. I had another meeting, so I just did both of them on Zoom, but I have a sample that I could bring to the next meeting.
And the balance of it's going to be some sort of clapboard, hardy board or
It's
something?
going to be hardy, clapboard, just a Arctic white on the top, and I forget the color name, but it's hardy. It's a cement board siding and AZAC panels and AZAC corners. So it'll all be maintenance free.
Okay. Go ahead, Rich.
Was the choice of a clock designed to mimic the clock tower on the railroad station?
So my client, who I respect, and his father, Antonio, his father asked me to design a clock, and we knew that there was one, and we thought about taking it off. We don't want to conflict with the other clock. So that's something, would love your input on that. We like it. It's just, is it too much? So that I was asked to do a clock. I did it. We made it work nicely. But
I like the clock, but we're going to have the one at the clock tower, and then there's going to be another one on another building that's been proposed to the center of town. I want to know who's going to sync all the clocks.
And my question was not derogatory, it was simply curious. I kind of like it too.
Yeah.
Somebody better get a Bluetooth and sync them all, because it's going to be an issue.
I had that responsibility at a previous job of syncing 16 clocks, and I put in the SOP for rise in time. I would use my cell phone.
Dan, it's one of the reasons we're hoping to eliminate daylight savings time.
It's not even that. It's like the power goes out, somebody's now a half an hour behind for some,
Well, if someone's waiting
So a
for the
couple of,
train.
I have, what's the technical guys, anything you guys get comments, say anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we actually have an April 8th. We actually got this out well in advance. We've had a lot of discussions back and forth with Scott and Craig regarding the engineering and infiltration rates, and I learned so much about infiltration rates and different things. I think they've got it well underhand. I normally don't have a lot of comments, but I guess the first 8 or 9 are all mine. The submitted landscape plan, it is pretty. It's conceptual. It indicates, a listing of potential shrubs. but it's not specific with plantings, quantity, sizes. So the plan will need to be revised and finalized. So, I know, it's not that, oh, well, this might be one of these 3 or 4 plants. So it needs to be specific. That's pretty easy. The screen plantings along 78, that's on their property. I think that once I pointed it out, you realize, oh, yeah, so, oh, yeah.
Yeah, just to touch on that a little bit, we'd had some initial discussions with that abutter about sort of providing some screening or what to do with that portion of that right-of-way, because again, that's part of the private way. We're not extinguishing that, so they have some equal rights to that area. Initial discussions indicated this might be something that they're amenable to.
Then I'm fine.
Subsequent discussions, though, have eliminated that as a possibility.
While we're talking about that, there is an issue of fencing along those whole areas, too.
Yeah. So we had discussions with them about what they're looking for screening fencing.
Right, because the zoning code requires a screening fence along that whole property line. I think it requires an 8-foot screening fence
Along that
in
side.
that zoning area, right. Anything to residential in that.
We'll look into that and make sure we have a screening fence
On the
proposed.
flex, from the flex zoning to the existing residential zoning, any
But it's
place-
also flex next door, even though it's a single-family residence. It's the same zoning.
Right, now, I understand, but it's still a residential property, is
Residential
what we
use.
were looking at. And I'll take a look at exactly the way we wrote in the zoning code, but the intent was that we were trying to block the existing residential properties from being overtaken by larger projects like this.
Understood, and we will look into that. We'll make sure that we provide that requisite fence. We do have it on the south side of
Showing
the
chain link, I don't
parking
know,
lot.
I'm sure that's the chain link fence that's there right now.
Yeah, that's the existing that's
right.
there. We have a screening fence proposed. It's not continuous because we sort of transitioned to landscaping there, but we have already internally, Bill and Craig and Nick got us this review letter well in advance of the meeting, but we still didn't want to try and make revisions and submit anything.
Well, we
before
actually
here.
told them not to.
Yeah, explicitly.
We
was
weren't
told
going
not
to, we weren't going to review it.
So we'll update that.
The landscape plan, some of the things has certain things on it that the site plan didn't. I think there's some consistency. It talks about a solid fencing or a screen along the south and west sides of the parking area. However, the layout plan didn't indicate the fencing. The plans need to be consistent, and we actually obviously need a detail of what the fencing is that you're proposing. There was a ground-mounted sign. However, the layout and a detail of the sign should be put on the detailed sheet. There was no detail of proposed dumpster screening. I'm a broken record on this. That will need to include the detail sheet. The screening should be made compatible, that similar brick veneer of the proposed base of the building, so it just blends right in. In addition, I know that the dumpster location that's shown here, Craig has some comments regarding, moving it kind of over in this area. Scott, Craig, and I have gone back and forth. I think we're close to a better location for that. It will require an administrative variance from the Board of Health, because they can do up to 50%. And the way we look at it, there's the property line, but then you own 7.5 feet. So, and the dumpster screen has to be 15 feet, and you're going to be 7.5 away. So, but that's something that you can look at coordinating with them that can be done administratively. There was no lighting plan that has specs, the detail sheets. Also, there was some lighting that was indicated on the uplighting on the trees. Obviously, that needs to be included on the lighting sheet. The parking reference, the index sheet and the layout is incorrect. The parking section is not section 6. It's embedded within the parking waiver for both the Stoughton Center District and everything. The waiver to parking is in section 6, but the actual parking requirement is within the section 9311. So that's kind of, and I know that Craig and I have had a lot of discussions about dumpster, and I think we're close. So I'll let Nick kind of go over some of the engineering portion.
Great, thanks. Yeah, really nice plans. Thanks for those, easy to read. Just getting back to the lighting that you had mentioned, Bill, the 20-foot height pole was a little tall, we thought, for the residential area.
Yeah, so the lighting, I made a pass at doing sort of a generic lighting detail and sort of layout. We've engaged subsequently somebody to do a photometric plan with foot candle readings on a grid at ground level across the entire site.
Yeah, right.
And I think we're going to keep that pole. We're trying to get away with one pole instead of having multiple. LED dark sky compliant, but we're going to try and drop that, I think, to 16 feet, but get enough of a spread to get coverage, but obviously not cause a nuisance for butters. So we'll have further detail for you guys upcoming.
Perfect. And I think you actually mentioned as well when you were giving your presentation that Morton Street access drive, widening that up to 24 feet from the 20 feet. That'd be great. We are looking at this intersection. It's like you mentioned, it's something that the engineering department is going to correct. And we're trying to coordinate the sidewalks on their side of the property at the same time. So just comment with the accessible ramps, curbing on Morton Street, and now all the way down to the property line. We'd like to see that. One of the things Craig had pointed out was the grading for the, I guess, the with the elevations of the first floor, if a knee wall might be needed?
That was a good pickup, the stem wall, and that is our intention.
Okay.
So if you look at the detail of the grading, it's a fairly flat site when you look at it, but in reality, from the intersection with Wyman and Morton down to, we'll say, the main entrance, you'd use this one, down to the main entrance of the building, drops about 5 feet. And then from there continues to go sort of downhill toward the parking lot. And so there's that push and pull of, if we raise the first floor to be level with the intersection, you're now, projected fairly high above the intersection or the entrance where we're trying to get in from Morton Street to the building. And then ADA ramps and things like that require more pavement, looks more industrial. So we tried to balance that. So at the intersection off the back of sidewalk, it's going to dip down. We may use a small retaining wall, one that you wouldn't see from the street. It'll be depressing the grade around the building, allows us to drop that ground level at the building, and then also raise the grade up against that first floor. So at that point, some of that first floor might be quote unquote below grade, of 18 inches, 2 feet, something like that. So that was a good pickup on that detail.
Yeah,
that so the window will look shorter.
Slightly shorter, and you're right, we can't go that far, right? You don't want to have the window sill, super close. So we're trying to balance that. So we're working through it.
Perfect. And the only other thing we had was, in reference to the some of the drainage calculations, but that seems like an easy fix and not a problem. That's all we had.
Okay, thank you. A couple of questions I have. I know you're showing 18 spaces. What are you doing for handicap spaces?
I saw a handicap sign.
You zoom in there, the top right space. So the first space when you pull in.
That's going to be,
zoom
okay,
that's a van space. There's an unloading zone there. At the back of that unloading zone, there's an ADA compliant walkway. It does not have to be a ramp or under the 5%. And that provides access directly to the back entrance of the foyer there.
The elevator's right there.
Elevator's right there. Yeah, it's convenient there. What's not shown on this plan, but will be on the next iteration, is also an ADA compliant walkway from that point to the dumpster enclosure. So we'll have a contiguous ADA access path for a resident that needs that to the dumpster too. So
The other thing is, have you looked into putting electric chargers? It's one of the things that we've kind of pushed for in the downtown area.
At present, we haven't really talked about that. We don't show those in the plan.
No, I didn't see any of those, and I didn't see any bike racks in the plan, which is
the
two of the
bike-
things we're trying to promote in this area.
Inside the building, there's an entire dedicated, in the first floor, right by the entrance,
thank you very
entire
much.
bike storage enclosure. I think there'll be sort of wall-mounted racks and things like that. We can look at at sort of electric vehicle charging stations, if you
Yeah, vehicle charging station and solar on that roof, you have a lot of area on that roof to see if there's anything you could do with the solar. I know it's part of the new building code. You might get stuck into doing something anyway as far as provisions, but, so it's something you should be looking at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah, we'll
Because
circle
the building
back.
code, I know it's requiring it for all new single-family and residential homes, and it may get into with this type of size building, so you should look at it, and I think it would be something that would also help out the project in the long run. Anybody else on the board have any comments?
I got nothing.
All right, so I'm going to guess you're going to request a continuance?
There we are.
No, you're loading,
The
that's
one
my,
after.
that's my,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gone next
I'm sorry.
week, so.
Before we do that, is there any comments from the public that anybody wants to speak on this project? Sure. No, come on up, come on up. Thank you. I know, it's getting late and I'm tired. You sit down, just tell us your name and your address, please.
Okay. Hi, my name's Nadia. On the flyer that I received,
What's your address?
115 Wyman.
Okay, thank you.
On the flyer that I received, it mentioned requesting a waiver for the traffic assessment.
Right.
So I wanted to speak against that. I think it's vital to get that assessment done, especially in that area where there is a lot of traffic and congestion, especially going, morning hours going on to Route 138. So I
Part of their comment in response to that was that they said there was done previously with a previous project that was put in here. I haven't had a chance to research that yet, and if there was a previous, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
But I agree that there's a lot going on in this area, and maybe
Yeah.
something that, if it's not a full assessment, it may be something that has to get done.
Yeah, so that was my major concern right now.
Okay? Thank you very much, I appreciate your comment. Anybody else?
One thing regarding the traffic is we are going to have our traffic consultant, we're concerned with the intersection, because it's a bad intersection. We all know that. Some of the things that they've done on theirs is they're going to have sidewalk and curbing. They've moved the curb out from where where the gravel is. Created a stop bar on Wyman, and then we're having our traffic consultant look at some other improvements on the other sides that the town can make to try to look at improving this. We fully acknowledge one of the things that for the development impact report is a traffic study that talks about the trip generation and can the roads handle it. And I think one of the things is that a previous development of more units than this was approved. So that's why they feel that they didn't need to do a full-blown traffic study that says, oh, well, can the roads handle 18 units? Because the town previously approved
24 units.
24 units.
2010. Was it
2010,
10?
and it was renewed in 2017.
So there's two things with traffic. I'm just trying to, let you know. One of the waivers they're asking is so they don't have to do this expensive traffic study because they're providing less units than a previously approved 24 unit that did not, actually seen the plans, did not do some of the extra site improvements, sidewalks, bumping things out, stop bars, stop signs, and doing that. And we're working with our traffic consultants. So we're fully aware. I know that Craig, who we both work with, the assistant engineer, has taken the plans and they're sketching out the stuff that we can do on our property and the MBTA. One of the problems is doing work on the MBTA is getting the MBTA to cooperate and agree to just about anything. I think that Congress would pass a balanced budget before the MBTA will work with us. So.
We agree. We're gonna look at the traffic, whether it be a full traffic study or a traffic study that at least satisfies what we need. That will be part of what we're looking at.
I understand that it was done in 2010, that was also 15 years ago.
It was true. It was done under a different code. It was done under a different requirements of that time than it is now. So I agree. So we will look at something along those lines, but we're just trying to get through the first meeting. But thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Sir?
How you doing?
Good.
My name's Nastali.
Got to come up and talk into the microphone, please.
My name's Nastali Perez, 35 Martin Street.
Okay.
And Marisol Munoz is the property, the owner of the property. And our concern is the lot 23 is going to become the parking lot, 17-space parking lot. Where would the entrance and where the entrance of that parking lot will be?
Off of Morton Street.
Off of Martin Street. Wow. That's because we already have Alpha Chemicals across the street with trucks, with big trailers making left and right off of their property, basically right on top of 35 Martin Street, because they can't even come out of Alpha Chemicals. And I'm just concerned with the cars exiting and entering this parking lot with Alpha Chem across the street with their trailers, because they're really busy on Alpha Chemicals, and they have trailers every day, and they could basically can't even make the left or the right out of there. So I'm just seeing a parking lot and Alpha Chems across the street.
I understand, but Alpha Chemicals is going to have to make some adjustments to stay on a public way. They can't be driving on other people's properties, so that's, you know, if that's what they're doing now to get around, then that's not a good business plan.
It's bad for traffic. There's times that the trailers are trying to come out and they can't even come out with 23, with what's there. There's a hydrant there
Right.
by 23 on Morton Street. There's a fire hydrant. I see it all day long. It's really bad. And I'm just concerned with the flow, how they're going to flow their parking lot with this here.
I'm, like I say, with what's going on with Alpha Chemical, I haven't studied those vehicles going in and out of there. You probably know a lot more than I do, but I can't, I mean, Alpha Chemical has to be able to deal with a proper.
If the parking
Okay.
lot is going to be on 23 Morton Street, is there going to be a privacy fence, or is that's going to be in
That's what we
view?
were talking about earlier. There will be a privacy fence between that property and the property that's adjacent to it, yes.
And idling of vehicles, is it going to be subterranean? Or is
No,
it
it's going to be a regular surface parking lot,
And that will be on the 23 lot, right? 23 Morton Street?
yes.
Okay. That is all I have to say.
Okay.
And if you want, the plans are on the planning board's website. All development plans that are submitted are, you'll see a section that says approved plans, and it says plans under review. And if you click on that, you'll see literally all the plans that we discussed tonight are, once I get them, I always put them up on the website. So, and the updated plans are up. Well, there's no updated plans on this one, but they are up there too. So you can click on and look at the PDFs, and you can look at all the, if you wanted to, the plans.
Thank you.
Or you can come to my office.
Thank you. That is all.
Does anybody else on public want to speak? Anybody online would like to speak? If not, can I have a motion to continue this meeting to
May 8th.
May 22nd?
Motion made to continue to May 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, appreciate it.
General business, meeting minutes. Karen, thank you. I reviewed these. I'm in good shape. I don't know what anybody
Yep,
else was
same
on
here.
that.
Minutes. Minutes, had no comments.
Can I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from March 27th, please?
So made.
So made.
You weren't there. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Any other business?
Barry, how's
Have
the
a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.